fuel pump diagnosis! Hey, g'day guys, it's Calvin from the Cartoon Company in New Zealand. Alright, hopefully you guys have watched my video on fuel pump systems and how they work and what happens with them. And behind me I've got the 2013 Hilux. And I just showed in the other video that the fuel pump circuit was kind of working. I'd start it, the circuit opening relay would open, the fuel pump would get about 9 volts through the resistor, and then I would rev it and it would go to 12 volts. But if I stabbed it, it wasn't working, it would stop the system. So you can see right there we're getting around about 9 volts. Let's see if we can get in around about 9 volts, and I'll give it a bit of a rev. It actually cut out. You see, I just revved it and you saw it went to nothing. And it's on the second circuit. But of course it's got to get the first circuit to get the second circuit. So it's got to fire the circuit opening relay to fire the fuel pump relay. It's moments later. I've cooked it up some test gear. As you can see, I love these things from Worth. They're a fantastic tool. And I've got one of them set up on the other side. I've got this little set of test leads here, and I've poked into the fuel pump wiring, FC and FPR. Over here I've got a couple of LEDs. Keys on. One is actually for the fuel pump relay, so that's presently gone to ground. And that one is for the circuit opening relay. Down there I've got another test light, so that they light up, plus they have that voltage reading on them, so they're really cool. They do actually trigger relays. They do the circuitry does allow me to trigger relays, so you've got to watch for backfeeds and stuff like that. And we've got the stuff here. It's not starting, but see, it's triggering the circuit opening relay. But down there, oh, if I sit back here, we can see that it isn't firing the fuel pump. Okay, so that's kind of good. Now my next question is it getting that signal out to the fuse box? Or could it just be this relay? That's definitely a diagnostic technique, guys. See the light up? Oh, it's gone again. We've got both of them. Okay. So we've got switching there. We don't have switching there. Now, I should mention that the last guy that wired this, or attempted to wire this, tried to wire in, oh, we'll get rid of that. He attempted to wire in a GS430 2000 to 2003 fuel pump ECU. So there was lots of cuts of stuff in the wiring. It was really shitty. We've got an earth in the left-hand kick panel. That could be an issue. It's interesting that when I pulled this on, I reckon the problem is actually me, and that I've just got a slightly bad connection in the wiring or the circuitry. I'm blaming myself first. But it was interesting that I could wiggle that relay. Now, do I have another relay? That's a different one. So I don't think I've got any changeover relays here. It's going again. Okay, so the only thing I fiddled with was that relay. Also, just remember that I did also turn the key on and off, and that can affect the relay operation and kind of give them like a reset. So sometimes this sort of fault can change when you turn the key on and off. So if we look, you see here, when I rev it, that's the fuel pump relay switching on. And down there we've got the voltage change. Get right under it. Oh, there it stopped. At which point that circuit's working. Oh. Intermittent nature of the problem. What have I done so far with the testing? I've isolated that it's not the ECU. So it hasn't had the ECU blown up. So that's positive. Well, in some ways it would be really nice if it was the ECU, because that's nice and simple to change. I think my next move is to change that relay out there. It's a very strange coincidence that it happens when I fiddle with the relay. Or what I could do is build up a little bridge to totally bypass that relay, so it doesn't do anything in the circuit. It's and it just feeds, it bypasses the whole lot all in one go. So that is a consideration for me, and I don't think it'll backfeed if I do that. Oh, it's gonna, oh, it's coming back. I'm gonna give that a try. So this is one of my latest acquisitions. Oh, look, it's got a big one. It's not going to do what I want. Having a little bit of think about it, I think it's a coincidence that it's this, that I fiddle with the relay. I actually don't think it is, because I still should have voltage on through the resistor, shouldn't I? Should have voltage through the resistor. So what I'm going to actually do, change the plan. Will it still run without the fuel pump relay in here? Whoop, nobody's working. Right, I've put in some test leads to the resistor here and there. Voltage there. So that's voltage in. That's voltage out. I need to rev it. I think I need to build an extension for this so I can work on this inside the cabin. In the cabin, 13 volts there, 9 volts there. So that's the output from the resistor. This is the input. Now, we're remembering that the EFI relay is also part of these circuits. It's where the voltage comes from for these components. So we could have a total shutdown of the EFI relay, meaning the fuel pump, the circuit opening relay doesn't get voltage, meaning the vehicle stop. But we've still got these lights that flash properly, so I don't think it's that. So when you're doing diagnosis like this, and I'm got the camera in front of me. I'm kind of brainstorming as I go along. Okay, my conclusions at that point in time may be wrong, and that's okay. We just go through, work through the process. We come up with ideas, we test them, we check them. And I kind of think when it does it, the so when it does it, the fuel pump trigger still stays on. So I don't think it's ECU related. Oh, sorry, I don't mean it's EFI relay. I think it's after that. I think it's in the fuel pump circuits. And the circuit opening relay is switching on and off. Sometimes it switches off and it faults, and sometimes it switches off and it doesn't fault. Okay. Enough revving. I can actually see the in and the out. So I've got the 12 volt and the 9 volt. I can see them switching. They seem to be switching. Now I want to know if it's switching out there. Right, I want to know what's going on here. Okay, I want to check the circuits here. We know that the fuel pump relay is staying switched on at the ECU. Oh, sorry, circuit opening relay. But is the signal getting to here? Is there a bad connection out to the circuit opening relay in the fuse box, or something else going on? So I'm going to pull that apart. I'm going to lift it out. We're going to have a look in there. We're going to have a see what we find, because doing nothing won't fix it. So we'll do some testing. So let me get this up. Zip, 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 and we'll come back, eh? Okay guys, so I've made some changes. You'll notice that the fuse box is now upside down. And I've taken the time, put the battery back in. The alternator wiring is still attached. And we bought my two little LEDs. Now, I spend a lot of time doing diagnosis, and in my videos I try to show guys how they can use basic stuff. These are like $5 LEDs here in New Zealand, so US probably $3, okay? It's as good as a test light. It's a homemade test light, okay? I do use my Worth test light. They're a fantastic unit. If you want a part number, just remind me and I'll put it in the description. Right, so let's get in. This is the bottom side of that integrated relay. There's the big main 12 volts going in. That'll be a battery voltage. It'll be fused. 11.8. 11.8. It's a bit lower than I'd like. Okay, so now, so I measured the battery voltage to know what I go against for all the others, okay? And then we're going to have in here, there's a fog light fuse relay. Yeah, right. There's a horn over here, and it's got a black wire. That one's got voltage. Now, I think that is the EFI relay trigger. And these will be power voltage out to the ECU. And I think this one is going to be... See, the relay, this test light, it's cool, but it still can be used as an earth to trigger things. And so I can actually still trigger a relay with it. And I think that is the fuel pump trigger there. So I'll put my little probe into there. And then this one I'm going to pop my probe into the fuel pump trigger, which is down here. And as expected, we get a light, same as we do inside, when, so that's the bypass, the fuel pump, that's actually the fuel pump trigger. The other one, of course, is the circuit opening trigger, which is that green one. And so we'll see those pop on when we start it. Oh yeah, no, I ride over throttle pedal so I can rev it out here. So I just checked that everything inside the cabin is mimicked out by the relays. And as I suspected, by turning it upside down, it's now working like it should. I'm quite certain it's a bad connection somewhere in there, and which is a real pain to find. Wiggle tests, so I'm going to get in, I'm going to start wiggling all the wires, seeing if I can make it induce this problem. So it could be inside, there's a whole lot of joints inside in there, and there's a whole lot of joints out here. G'day guys. I moved aside. I was just going to do stuff to the car, but I chose not to. I thought I'd actually explain a little bit more. Now, the Hilux system is slightly different to the LS430 system. I knew this, and I've wired it like a Hilux because that's what I'm doing, and normally that works. However, it's not working like I should, and there's a fault there, and this might not be the correct way to do it, but it is a way to do it. Okay, there's a way to do it. So let's look at the two different systems. I've got some diagrams, so you might learn diagrams as well, which is important for this stuff. I presently have this document, which is ECS, is Engine Control Systems. It's for 2005 LS430, which is close enough to the GS430 that I'm working on. Okay, and we're going to look at the fuel pump circuits, of course. Here we've got a circuit opening relay. Here we've got a fuel pump relay. Here we've got a starter relay. Main EFI relay. Where are you? Okay, so we're gonna push the wrong buttons. We're gonna move this up. And so we've got circuit opening relay here, and you can see that it feeds. I'm going to slide it down. And you've got these two colors. Don't care too much about the colors. So this is a main power supply here. This is a smaller. These are smaller ones. This is the switching side. So it's one of them's going to be to the ECU. One of these will be FC, and this one. Well, let's go have a look. We're going to scroll down, so it goes out the side. Excuse me. So we're looking at the orange, black orange at the top here, and we're looking at this green black down here. Oh, my phone's ringing. I hear it in the shed. So this one comes along to this junction connector, and it is an ignition switch. So the top one's the ignition switch, and then this one here, the green black, is FC. So that's the fuel pump, fuel control, which we knew that were going to be that. We have the main EFI relay. Okay, and you'll see it comes down out of the EFI relay, goes into this black white wire, and this is going to change on cars. Colors aren't that important, but for the purpose of tracing them, it's important on this one. We go along at plus B, plus B1, plus B, goes along to this EFI2 fuse, and it comes down here. Oh no, it doesn't. It goes here. Look, there's a red black wire. It comes along. There's a red black wire. We go back to the previous page. Here's this red black wire, and I need the whole page. So there's the power supply to the circuit opening relay from the EFI relay. Comes out of the circuit opening relay, does this junction box, and there's our resistor, another junction box thing off to the fuel pump. And then this junction box feeds the power supply to the fuel pump relay, and the switching side of it. And see this yellow wire going off? That's going to be FPR. We already know that because we watched my other video on it. We understand how this works, okay? And so this relay, when it the ECU will open it, so it's not bypassing the resistor, and then it closes it to bypass the resistor, okay? And it's got this junction box, and so if the fuel pump relay fails, the vehicle will still run because it still will flow voltage through the fuel pump resistor. Okay, so when we can tell that by looking at this diagram and understanding how it's working. So again, if the fuel pump relay fails, it's not running through the fuel pump relay to go to the resistor. Now, just remembering that, let's look at the 1GR, the Hilux. Oh, that's a bit smaller, eh? If we can see it okay. It's over in this part of the diagram. So we have the fuel pump here. We've got our fuel pump resistor. We're coming up, and we know that this feeding in here is going to be from the circuit opening relay. We'll just confirm. And see, this diagram's a little bit different. Black red, which it is black red on this car. Here's our circuit opening relay. This one's going to be from ignition switch. Here's our ignition switch. Yep, that's an ignition switch. So the black orange is from the ignition switch. And so this one's going to be FC. We don't need to go looking. We know that. We've got this one coming down. And here's our main relay feeding our circuit opening relay. Okay, so it goes to the circuit opening relay. And here's the output comes along here to this black red. They do it a little bit different. You'll see this black red comes along and it supplies the switched side. So that's the 12 volt for the switch side for the fuel pump relay. And then this one will go off to FC. Here it is, see? Oh, sorry, FPR. Goes off to FPR. I need to slow down. And then this relay is a changeover relay in a different sense. So the voltage has to go through that relay to get to the resistor. So it's either coming down and it comes down to number 5 to the fuel pump resistor, or it's going out on number 4 to bypass the resistor. The voltage always has to flow through that changeover relay, which the fuel pump relay is a changeover relay design. So it's quite different. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that Hilux back to an LS430 design. So if the fuel pump relay is my fault, it doesn't matter. It'll still flow 9.3 volts through the resistor, and that will be a way that I'll be able to tell what's going on. And I'll do it in such a way that I can always remove it later. Right, I'm going to go do that mod. I'll show you on the car, and we'll be back. And hopefully that makes sense, showing the designs, and hopefully it helps you a little bit on reading these diagrams to do a better job as well. Just thinking about what I've just said to you and told you about with the computer, on the front of the computer and on the diagrams, is another one to help will be my LS430 video, which I haven't yet written, I haven't yet filmed, but that will happen. So keep an eye out for that one too. So if we go in here, and you remember those colours in there, they were actually real. There's our plug, for our fuel pump, no, circuit opening relay. And this is the output there. I got in the old test voltmeter, continuity tester. So this one is this wire over here to the bottom of the fuel pump relay, the fuel pump relay. And then it's got this loopy thing, which is actually factory. And it just loops back to the switching side, not the switched side, the switching side. There's another black red over here, which is the low voltage, which is that one, that wire there. It's linked into that wire somewhere. So there's a connector that could be a problem. And then there's this blue wire, or blue black, which is this wire. And then of course FPR there, and that one there is FC. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whip this out of here. I take this wire and I'm going to slam it into there, crimp them together, and I think I'll just pull this one out of that relay and try that. And that turns it back to LS430 diagrams or wiring. Okay, so as I said, there is a difference between these two, and they normally work fine. But I suspect there still might be a problem, but as part of the diagnosis process, one, I can reverse what I've done. It won't hurt having it like that, so I can leave it like that without a problem. And it will allow me to diagnose where that possible fault could be. Now, in here is the earth for the fuel pump. Up in here on this vehicle, that's the earth. And I have had to repair in here. The guy had been in there. And then you'll see here there's Tefsel coming out of the ECU, Tefsel wire, and it comes up and there's actually a heap of joins in here. So there's a chance I've got one of those wrong. That's always a chance. Okay, that's for the pedal wiring. Of course, you did see me have a pedal outside. You'll see a lot of guys who do stuff, and you'll see a lot of posts on the internet, and they've done something and they want to blame something else, okay? And I see this quite a lot, and maybe they should go over the work they've done. There's a chance this is something that I've done. There's a chance that it isn't something I've done. I just don't know until I find it, or if I ever find it. The owner of the vehicle is a mechanic, so I will be giving a jump wire, so if it plays up, or I might even be putting a switch in yet, off the cigarette lighter, into the fuel pump circuit. So if he wants, I think have I got fuel pump plugs? That'd be interesting, eh? I could actually put a fuel pump plug in there, so he could just plug and unplug it if it did fault. Good thinking, I might do that as well. And that gives me a backup plan. Right, yeah, so I'm going, as I said, I'm going to just grab that one, and I'm going to cut it, pop it into there, bypass that, becomes LS430. Right, I'll show you as close as I can. Plug, and then you pop this lock that runs along the bottom here, and then there's a little tab in here, you pop in here, and I'd actually already loosened it. There's a little lock tab in there. These are a fantastic tool, and out it comes. Okay, and not everyone's going to have the terminals for this. As if you could have, I could have just put a crimp in, or I could have put a bridging wire in. Either of those are fine. So we've still got 9 volts on that one. It's a 9.6. So it's close enough to 9, and we still have 12 volts on this side, 13. That battery voltage. So we're still good there. Okay. And so this one here, so that's the output from the fuel pump relay. Have I identified the problem? Don't know. But I've done some stuff. We'll do some more testing, we'll do some driving. The last time it didn't fault for a week. Oh, and I'm going to put that switch in. So you know, when I was on the computer and I said my phone was ringing. It happened to be the owner of this vehicle, and we were discussing the fact that this is an intermittent problem. He understands. Last time it played up, well, when I took it to the air conditioning, it actually faulted when I picked it up. I don't think I showed that, but I got there, it was a non-running truck, and I just bridged my wire, drove it home. Okay, so, but it had been there for over a week, or maybe 2 weeks, 10 days, and hadn't faulted. They didn't know, and it had faulted. And sometimes it helps when we're doing diagnosis to talk out loud as well. And that's kind of when we decided that maybe just changing that integration relay is a good idea. I don't like just throwing parts at things. I like to diagnose, but there is a time when doing nothing doesn't work, and these intermittent problems can be a real tricky to find. As I said, the wiring, I have continuity tested the wiring today. That checks out fine. All the other things check out fine. And again, watch this. It's not faulting today. It's not faulting again at the moment. So I don't know when it is going to next fault, or if it is. So I think changing that integration relay is a good idea. It's quite an expensive relay. Unfortunately, sometimes stuff in New Zealand can be very pricey, and that's why I'll sometimes wait and get stuff overseas, but in this case we'll buy it in New Zealand and get it changed. Change that tomorrow, and I'm going to call it pretty much done. I got the switch. I'll do a bit of driving. I'll drive back and forth to the workshop. I got the switch if the fuel pump does fail. Have I showed that? Anyway, I put a switch in, a bypass switch. I'm really happy. I'm going to give it a reflash, give it a couple of days driving. If there's any more updates, I'll give you an update on it. Change the integration relay. I've made a very short video somewhere else on that, so if you want to go check that out. And it seems that our fuel pump issues so far, touch wood, have been resolved. Interesting too, there was actually corrosion down in the integration relay, so it pointed towards that being the issue. So I'm happy about that.
Righto, I would say there's nothing worse than having a video and really not having a final update, but being kicked in the nuts is far worse than pretty much everything. So this is sort of a follow-up anyway, so you don't feel like you've been kicked in the nuts. We've driven the ute. I've driven it back and forth to the workshop all week. I've run around, I've flipped into town. Got to be a little bit careful because it's not actually legal on the system, but being a mechanic, I'm allowed to drive it to and from a repair facility. And I was taking it into another workshop to pick up Jason for his warrant, and then so that's like a roadworthy. And then I was driving it back to my workshop. So to me, that's to and from a repair facility. I've got to drive it to actually test whether it's any good. And during that time, the fuel pump so far, touch wood, it hasn't faulted. Having some time to think. We've got two things happening. One, I can wiggle something. Wiggle. But the other thing I'm also doing is turn the key on and off. And often energizing and de-energizing that coil of wire within that relay can change things. And that's why sometimes relays, if you flick the key on and off a few times, will start working again. And I think that's what's happening in this case. I am crossing my fingers, just a little bit. But so far, weeks driving, no problems. It's gone back home. I hope that's been helpful, showing some of the stuff we go through and some of the testing. And we'll talk to you soon. Catch you later.